Welcome to the Black Belt Business Podcast. My name is Matthew Brenner, and today I am with Master Mertens, and Master Mertens is going to share with you how he added in his schools, without relying or depending on any ads, over $146,000 of projected revenue over the course of a year in his locations, and he did all this without spending a dime on ads. Now, does he still run ads? Absolutely, but has nothing to do with ads. This is on top of that. Okay, he collected over 400 leads, which is about $20,000 worth of free leads. And we're going to go through today what we did, how we did it, and how it actually impacted the team to know that they can go out and recruit new students without depending on ads. So if you ever thought about wanting to grow your martial arts school without depending on ads, you're going to want to listen to this episode, because it's going to be like really a podcast episode, but also a case study of like, okay, here's what we actually worked with. Here's what actually happened, especially with the multi-school owner. Mr. Mertens, thanks so much for coming on today.
Hey, of course, sir. It's my honor. Happy to.
So tell us a little bit about your background for people who don't know, as a martial artist and also a little bit as a business owner.
I mean, I guess the very fast version, because it's a fairly long career. 42 years ago, I walked into a Taekwondo school for the first time. Immediately, became a passion, something I enjoyed immensely. Had an incredible instructor and my mentor and teacher, Grandmaster Sun Chong. He was a former U.S. national team head coach. I was a competitor for many years. And then when I ended my competing career and graduated from Cornell University, we moved. I'd actually studied with him in Syracuse, New York. We moved to Buffalo, New York about 32 years ago, proceeded to open up 5 schools. This has been the only professional job I've ever had, even though I have an Ivy League education. And our 5 schools grew to be the largest provider of martial arts here in Western New York. We currently work with about 1,700 active students in our 5 locations. And also very proud of the fact that at this point I have 37 of my former staff who've all gone off to open and operate their own schools all across the country.
That's beautiful. I love that. So when you reached out to me first, obviously you're a sophisticated martial arts school owner. You run 5 locations, have a ton of active students. By any measure, you're in the top 1% of people in the martial arts industry. So, like, what problem did you have before you joined the program? Like, what did you want to actually solve?
Well, I mean, I guess, having that many locations and having a large number of students, we still do always need new students. And I guess what first caught my attention was that you were promoting the idea of, again, that it wasn't wrong to advertise or use online ads, but hey, maybe there's more things you can do that are going to be grassroots marketing. And to be honest, I thought that we'd pretty much done it all. We had a fairly strong relationship with our local academic schools and even a couple of daycare centers in the area. But, you were presenting, hey, I can still get you a strong response, even given everything that you guys have done already. And maybe part of staying in the top 1% is to continually invest in new ideas and to keep learning.
Yeah, so I guess my question is like, weren't you skeptical? Like, obviously, there's more advertising online than ever, right? And there's the least amount of trust than ever. Like, I don't know how many ads I get on my Facebook or Instagram. Get 400 students next month, or bring in blah blah blah, guaranteed. And it's like, what are these people talking about? Anyone who's kind of like been around the block or who has more experience, they know that you're probably going to waste money doing those things. Not to say that all those things are bad. And by the way, I still think you should run Facebook ads and social media ads. I know I talk about how all the time that it's not you should like depend on it, and I still agree with that. You shouldn't depend on it. It doesn't mean you don't run any social media ads,
Right.
If you have it within your budget, you should definitely do it. That's just one of the legs underneath the pillar, under the table you have for your marketing, right?
That's right.
So what made you, as someone who's been around the block, who's sophisticated, who's done this before, what made you decide that like you could even trust me or trust this program that could even work for you? Like, I remember you were skeptical in the beginning. We had a couple phone calls.
That's right. Well, I said that, hey, I feel like it's almost my obligation or my responsibility to my team to look into everything that's out there. And it is true that some of the stuff that I look into, I say, yeah, no, I don't think that's going to be for us, or I don't think it's going to represent us well, whatever marketing method somebody has out there. When we spoke, you and I had interacted probably a decade or so ago, but I was more familiar with your brother and with the success. You were coming with a proven track record that was even, surprisingly, because there's not a lot, even larger than ours, right? You'd run a larger chain, you'd worked with it, you'd been responsible for developing the marketing for an even greater number of locations than ours, and feeding lead generation and new students to that many locations. So I said, okay, you have a proven track record. And then when we spoke, after you hearing the explanation of all that we were doing and how well it was going, you were still extremely confident in, okay, no, I do have something beyond that and beside that. And obviously, I was extremely pleased that, within our first conversation, I mean, you then coached us for a longer period of time, but within our first conversation, I was like, he does. I got it. There's something here that we were missing. There was something that these little tweaks that could make a huge difference.
Yeah, because when you came on board, it wasn't like you never heard of doing school programs before,
Absolutely.
right? Never heard of daycares. Like most people have heard of this stuff, and most people have actually done it, whether it was before COVID or maybe they had tried to do it and it didn't work. They didn't know how to either hack their way in or they didn't know how to set up a program that got kids to actually show up to their martial arts school in the end, or know how to actually convert in mass enrollments, right? Because a lot of people do school programs when they can, but they might get one or two students here and there, and that's good. But like, there's so much more meat on the bone. There's so much more, juice in that lemon to squeeze.
That's right.
So like, you already had these programs. So when you came on board, I was like, hey, I know you already have them, and like, what are you getting out of it now? And it wasn't shabby at all. You're like, hey, sometimes we had 7, hey, sometimes we had 4, and like, we went over the numbers, and like, you probably did better than most people. Okay, so like, what made you feel confident that like, okay, this is actually going to be better than what I already have or have already done?
So, someone said once that when it comes to marketing, nothing works great and nothing works forever. It kind of constantly changes. I mean, the other day I was at a tailor and I realized that, oh, suits used to be like wider was the fashion, and then they became real skinny. And then, okay, ties were wider and then they become skinny. And, it just seems that you need to reinvent time to time the way that you're going to connect with the community and do different community marketing. And I always think of it in terms of a funnel, and that when so we have our lead generation, our lead conversion, our student retention, and the wider we can make that funnel from the beginning all the way down, the more students we're going to come out with at the end, and the more students we're going to keep. And, because of your encouragement and strategies, you helped us with, particularly on the front end, all the elements of the funnel. We were working with a number of places. Again, we have 5 locations, so we were already working with multiple school districts and dozens of schools, but you helped us find a way to get involved with more of them. We were already running some after school programs, and actually, to be honest, we were running a lot of programs that kind of ran our staff ragged, because we would be teaching 3 or 4 days of phys ed programs and then an after school or a before school program, and we found a more efficient way to get similar results with a little bit less effort while still providing a valuable service. And then for the people that were showing up to our school, we had a couple tweaks there that helped us to get, better results. So again, like everybody knows, when you start playing around with all the elements of a formula, right? If you exercise more and drink more water, the results start to maximize. And that's, I think, what we saw with your system.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think with someone who has more experience like you, it's always that small hinges swing big doors,
Always
right?
love
And
that
so
phrase. Yes, sir.
yeah, the tiny little adjustments, and that's why we went over on the phone. I was like, okay, what are you doing right now? Tell me what's happening. Because first, what we did, and I do this for anyone that comes on board, is first we do a discovery call to make sure I can actually help. Because sometimes I talk to school owners and I find out their situation, and I can't always help, right? Based on like what they want to do or how much time they have in their day. So first we did a discovery call, and then we did a longer call on Zoom after that. So we did our first discovery calls in 10 minutes. We did a longer call on Zoom where we talked for about an hour. We put together a game plan. So what I do for anyone that's listening is here's how the process works. You set up a discovery call with me, talk to you for 10 minutes, just find out a little bit more about background, what you want, and see if I can help. Then, if I feel like I can, we schedule a game plan call. The game plan call is where I search your area, look at the different schools in your area, the daycare, see what's even available, see what's even possible, make sure that there's the right opportunity, and also make sure you're not in our territory, because I can't help you if you're in our territory. And then, or one of like, right next to one of my other clients or something. And then what'll happen is we'll put together a full game plan, and you decide, okay, does this game plan work for me or not? If it does, you're like, heck yeah, let's do it. If it doesn't, well, at least you know kind of where to go from there. So that's kind of the process. And obviously from that game plan call, you're like, all right, let's do it. I'm confident. And I don't know many other coaches that do this in our industry, but I offer 100% money back guarantee, which is like, hey, if you don't bring in at least as much revenue as you invested in the program, I give you all your money back. And the reason why I do that more than anything, there's two main reasons. Like one, obviously it builds trust, right? It's like, okay, this guy is putting his money where his mouth is. But two, we get a small community. People talk, right? And if like you invest a bunch of money into something and it sucks, you're gonna tell a lot of people about it, right? And like my reputation is so important. So if you did everything I told you to do and you didn't get the results, I would be embarrassed. But if I gave you your money back, you'd be like, oh, well, he's a really great guy. It didn't work for me or my area. And like, he tried his best and, we part as friends. So, that's why I offer a guarantee. It's like, hey, if you do the work, you're going to get the result. So what is it exactly like that we did for you that you felt like was actually helpful? Because it wasn't just helping you, it was also like your other instructors around the hall,
Sure.
right? And for your other locations.
That's right. So again, we have 5 locations, and depending on the location, as you know, different school districts, in different areas can be a little more cooperative or a little more defensive when it comes to letting outside organizations work with them. So we had everything from, I'll just say, location A that was already running programs in every public school, every elementary school within its district, to location B that was in zero. None of the local school districts would allow us to come in and do anything. And so the first thing is that you gave us some new, what I call them sometimes is some new fishing spots to fish in, right? Because if everybody goes to the same spot all the time, it gets all fished out. And you kind of emphasize to us, okay, well, first let's look at all these different areas. Are there daycare centers in all of them? And of course there were. Had we really exhausted and reached out to all of the daycare centers in the area, and tried to set up collaborative programs? And to be honest, we hadn't. And, there was, of course, anywhere from 4 to 5 pretty, good affluent area daycare centers that we could set up programs with. And we went on to do that. There were school districts that still wouldn't open the door to us during their regular school day or, during their phys ed classes. But we learned that some of them have after school programs. And a lot of times, at least for us, these after school programs were run by third party companies, whether a YMCA or some other third party name. I mean, we were able to set up programs with them. So we got in that school building working with at least some portion of the kids. And again, then there was the structure of the programs that you gave us, which made it more efficient to run the programs than what we've been doing previously. And again, I can speak about all the moving pieces and parts, whatever you want, but the whole system just played together very nicely and was a pretty strong return on investment for the effort that we needed to put into it. Oh, you've gone mute, sir, at least to me.
There we go. Sorry about that.
All right.
So for people that are listening, I call this strategy the Triangle Codex. It's a 3-step system we use in order to get new students organically without having to depend on ads or spend money on ads. So the first thing we did, like you mentioned, is we created a hit list of all the schools, both public and private in the area, and all the list of the daycares and after school programs. Because sometimes you can't get into like a school right away. Like sometimes people I think they're skeptical. They listen, they're like, I tried school programs before and I didn't get in. Well, if you didn't get in the front door, sometimes you gotta do the side door. Sometimes you gotta go through a back window. Sometimes you gotta build a tunnel underneath the school, right? So there's many ways to do it. And just because you don't get in the first year, like we didn't get accepted to every school we tried. Absolutely not.
Sure.
Some we tried, we didn't. And then some we tried that you tried in the past, and we used maybe a different script or a different strategy, and then you are able to get in. And then next year, some of those ones that said no are going to turn to yeses, because now you're already in there. You built trust, you built rapport. So just because you've been rejected before or it hasn't worked before, it doesn't mean it's not going to work in the future. Because if you have the right strategy and you have the right people to make it work, and of course you're willing to put in the actual effort, like you almost like can't lose, right? So for you guys, we set up this list. And I remember one of the things you said was like, oh my God, I didn't realize like how many we actually had, right? Like you said, like there was sometimes you fish too much in the same spot. There's no more fish left. There's all these spots we hadn't. So one of the major things that happened, like obviously we had a bunch of new daycares, a bunch of schools. We started running programs in them, but we don't do concurring or recurring programs. So your staff was a lot of times doing things, I think for like 4 weeks or 6 weeks sort of programs, right?
Sure.
Yeah, where they have to travel out and they go teach at a place for 4 weeks or 6 weeks at a school or daycare or whatever. And then that's not bad. I mean, it's a good strategy. The only issue with that is like it really elongates the process of like how long you have to go travel somewhere, and it can really burn out the staff because now you have your staff that's going out to these other places, and now they're not in the school teaching the core programs. So the people in the school, they don't have as much support, and the people who are going out feel like they're running some remote program. And a lot of times the students don't feel like they need to join a Taekwondo school or martial arts school because they already trained. They've been coming for weeks, right? So we like to do everything within 1 week. We like to do a quick program that funnels people to enroll in your school within 1 week as quickly as possible by striking while the iron's hot and building the core program and not just like kind of like remote locations sort of thing.
Absolutely.
So as a result of implementing the program, like what like I guess what do you feel like has like helped you the most? Like why do you feel like it was actually effective?
Again, I can't, I'd have to say it's that whole improvement of the whole funnel, right? So we got more programs in place than ever before, including in some buildings or some schools that we'd never been in before. So we created, and which also means that we've created relationships because, that's the one thing. If you run an ad and a student signs up from that ad, okay, well, then you got to pay and run the ad again. But we created these relationships with, dozens of new daycare centers and dozens of new after school programs, and that relationship is still going to be there for next year and the following year. I mean, to be honest, we were doing this, we found out some of these options kind of late. So we're doing these programs in April and May and June. And we even know that the response is going to be a little slower or a little lower because of now we're into baseball season, graduation season here in Western New York. Finally, the weather's getting nice. So I think we're going to even maximize the results we get from these programs even more when we run them next year in the fall or in the winter time. But again, we not only did we get more programs in place than we ever had before, but we had a more effective way of, because of your strategies of gathering the names, emails, the phone numbers, actually building our mailing list or email list. And that's kind of an ancillary benefit, right? Because we have the direct enrollments that we received, but we've added hundreds of extra names to our email list. And we know that now is not always the best time for people. Maybe they get the invitation to our end of the school year party. They get the invitation to our back to school open house. They just get informed about the different things we're going on in our school. And I know that if we're the one they had an experience with, we're the ones that they're going to look to first when they are ready. And then the actual sales training. I mean, again, for me, it was something that we did with our whole team on the calls together. So it wasn't that I just had to then run back to them and inform them of everything. As a result of being on the calls, my team, got a strategy mapped out. They got training on the strategy. And then, of course, it was up to us to put the strategy in place. And you did with a tough love type of mindset, make sure that was held accountable. I'll just say one more thing, and that is that, whenever I hire coaches, I know that, okay, as a result of having a coach, I'm going to get information, I'm going to get motivation, but I'm also going to get accountability. It's the same reason why I have a personal trainer, right? Is that there's somebody that's asking me, why weren't you at the gym? When you're at the gym, did you do the stuff you were supposed to do the way you were supposed to do it at the intensity you were supposed to do it? And simply you get more results. And that's what I saw your coaching system set up to be.
So, I mean, obviously, you are the boss of your system, and I think you also do consulting of your own, right? Like you have your own
I
consulting
have,
group.
I practice what I preach, so I have no problem saying that I run a coaching program for, over 100 Taekwondo schools. It is specific to Taekwondo throughout the U.S. and Canada. And I always tell them, hey, a portion of the monies that I receive, I then go and invest, to keep learning and keep making sure that I'm running the best school possible, to lead by example.
Yeah. So, isn't there part of you like I don't know, like ego wise, it's like, well, I'm a coach too. Like, I don't need this. Like, do you not feel that way?
I guess all the highest level coaches I know pay for coaching. I'm a professional. I run Taekwondo schools and I consult other people, and I pay retail just like everybody else to go to other people's seminars, to buy their materials. I have a Chat GPT coach. I have a kind of, he's working with me on AI and Chat GPT strategies. I have a stretching coach, or someone I go to for stretch therapy. I've hired different business coaches and consultants at different times. I just think, again, we're following the recommendations we make to other people.
Love that. So, I guess as a result of implementing the Triangle Codex and setting up these new schools and daycares you hadn't been into and tweaking the ones you were already in, what has been the actual result?
I mean, the numbers are actually still, from this seed that you planted, or strategy that we adopted, the numbers are still rolling in. But I believe, and even up to this past weekend, we had some graduation ceremonies and enrolled another, 7 or 8 students. We have definitely enrolled, in excess of 50, maybe it's getting close to 60 students. We still have after school type graduation things going on over the next 3 or 4 weeks. Again, here in Buffalo, school's going to go up until late June. And we're now in the process, because of those relationships, we'll probably set up somewhere between 4 to 6 summer camp programs per each of our locations. So we'll be at somewhere like 25 to 30 summer camps over the summer, and I know that's going to generate additional enrollment. So, I'm not a guy that likes to over dramatize something or whatever, but I'm going to say when this is all said and done, will be, north of 75, 80 enrollments that we will have done from this program, this school and summer year. And then I think we're going to be on track. We'll repeat it and possibly, I would hope, beat that next year by running the program in even better times of the year.
Yeah, I love that. And like the cool thing about this is that, yeah, it's a repeatable system. You can do year after year after year. And I think it's important for school owners to recognize that like obviously you can't just depend on ads, even though you should be running them. But if you are the boss or you're the leader of a school or you run multiple locations, you need to have a system that you can give your staff that they can go out and recruit students on their own, right? Because if they depend on you for people just to show up through the website or leads or ads, then when that stops working, because it stops working at some point, right? Things need to be tweaked, or maybe, maybe you need to get a better agency to run your ads, or the person running it needs to be switched, or whatever. At some point, there's going to be a slowdown, and when that slowdown happens, you need to have a way to go out and recruit new students. If you don't give a strategy to your staff that they can do that on their own, then they could even like end up blaming you. Like, hey, the system's not working. Like, hey, why don't I have more leads? Hey, why don't I have more people coming in? It's like, well, like, why don't you go out and recruit them? And if you've been around for a long time, you know that like people like back in the day would do more stuff like this. But now they don't do it as much because we've gotten a little lazy, right? With social media ads.
I just want to interrupt you, sir, because there's a phrase that I hated that I started hearing in our meetings once in a while. We've got a great team. Obviously, we wouldn't have the level of success we did if they weren't great instructors and pretty good at taking action. But the phrase that we would hear once in a while when we'd have a dip during the time of the year would be like, well, we're doing the best we can with the leads that we have. And I would say, this is a terrible phrase to say, because you are not just responsible for doing the best you can with the leads you have. We are in the lead generation business, right? We need to go out and create our own leads. And so you're right. At different times of the year, the phone may be ringing off the hook and the emails may be coming in like crazy because it's the back to school season, or maybe even in the middle of winter here because there's not a lot of activities, for kids, and they got to do stuff inside. But when we hit the slower seasons, hey, we've got to go out and do stuff. And one of my locations, over 20 new enrollments every month for, multiple months, simply, and during some of the times that weren't as good, simply because we just had more stuff going on, right? So it wasn't all of these programs alone. Again, paid ads were involved and everything, but hey, to all of us, every student matters, right? Every student that you can acquire matters, and if you can do so with just a little bit of time and effort outside of your school, it's certainly valuable to put into the mix.
Yeah, absolutely. And when I was going through your stats, I know that like one of the things we like to do, like I like to do whenever I work with a client, is keep very strict stats of like, okay, how many leads did we acquire? How many school programs we set up? How many new students did we actually get out of it to make sure it's actually effective. And I know that we weren't the best at keeping stats with you guys, like in terms of like you guys submitting the stats, but that's okay because the team was really good at implementing the program. They just weren't good at the final part, is putting the numbers in.
That's right.
But so I think honestly these numbers are very, very modest. I think they're low. But based on what we talked about, we collected at least 400 leads. Honestly, I probably think it's closer to 1,000 just because of all the locations you're about to do. But let's just say so far we have 400 leads. If each lead costs $50, like you pay for it on Facebook, like $50 a lead, which is pretty, I would say, average. That's like $20,000 in free leads that you got that are going to be high quality people that live in your area and now know, like, and trust you. You're not ready to join right now, some are going to join later, right? And at 61 new students is what I have marked down. that means that you're bringing in, I think it's like, I forget how much new revenue per month, but per year, you added $146,000 in new projected revenue for a year. And that does not include any retail they sell, any friends they recommend, people who enroll later because now they saw you, like you, and trust you, and they come in later. So this is like very much like the baseline. These are not like pretend numbers. These are like real numbers that you brought into your business because you gave your team the tools of like what to do, how to do it, why they need to do it, and the resources to actually make it happen. And of course, I just give a little bit of tough love to make sure that I'm actually following through.
That's
Because
right.
this whole process is kind of like digging a well. Like you're gonna have to get a shovel. You're gonna have to start digging in the ground. It's gonna be hard. You're gonna sweat. Your hands are gonna get dirty. But once you dig that well, you're gonna be able to drink water from it year after year after year. Yeah, you can go buy a bottle of water from the supermarket. Cool, but once that water bottle's done, A, it's more expensive. It's like 10 times the cost. But B, once that water bottle's done, that's it. You have to go buy more if you want more. And that's how I think about like buying leads, which is like you always have to buy them. Like the lead price cost is always going to go up and the lead quality is generally going to go down. So we want to make sure we have another resource, and what that resource is like having a well, digging a well, creating organic programs in your area that you can recruit new students from whenever you want. Now you can drink whenever you're thirsty. So if there's anyone watching this maybe on the fence about booking a discovery call or speaking to us about joining the program, like what would you say to them?
I mean, again, the discovery call is the first stop. You're right that, I had a healthy dose of skepticism, not because I had an aggressive feeling towards you or towards the idea, but like I said, because hey, I've been doing this for, 4 decades now. I've seen a lot of different things out there. So I was looking to hear something that was different than what I had already been doing. You did exact possess it. And then, I can say without question that you do take the success of your clients extremely seriously. I think even, whether single school owner, I mean, multi-school owner made it a little bit more difficult for you because we had more people that had to report in. We had more tracking that you had to follow up with, but I saw that you were very diligent about all of it. I can only imagine if it's a single school owner, they'll be even a little bit, they'll probably even get a little more each time when they have the call because, you don't have to check on 5 different people. But even so, with 5 different people, I mean, you were very clear that every time, okay, I'm going to check with every single person on this call. Did they do what they were supposed to do, the way they were supposed to do it? What kind of results did they give? And that accountability was valuable, for me and for our team. And, we got more than we expected. I think we got, a very strong return on our time and effort. We got a very strong return on the investment that we made in the program.
Well, thank you so much for coming on today, telling us about your experience. And if you're listening right now and you're like, hey, this is really cool, I want to do this for my school, send me a DMs on Instagram at blackbeltbrenner1. Just say the word triangle, and I'll send you a link to schedule a call. You can find me on Facebook, Matthew Brenner. Or if you're not ready yet and you want to hear more, that's cool. Like you can get in my newsletter if you send me a message or send me an email, Matthew at wdojo.com, and say, hey, I want to get in a newsletter. I post a newsletter 3 times a week. Each one is a 3-minute read with no fluff, all strategy about how to get new students without having to spend money on ads, how to recruit new staff members and how to train them, and how to increase your retention at your school. All simple strategy that you can use and copy and paste. So thank you so much for being on here, Master Mertens. I'm excited to hear about how these other programs we still have that are still like pending. How many more do you have coming out
Oh
before
gosh,
the
I
summer?
don't know. Well, again, our for after school programs, the end of the school year is about 4 weeks from now, and I believe we've still got like 5 or 6 programs going on that will provide results for us. And then most of the organizations we connected with have some kind of summer camp, school age summer camp, even if it's the daycares. A lot of them run school age summer camp. So probably in excess of 20 type summer camp programs will be running this summer as well. So
Cool.
uh,
And for people who are listening, when we say summer camp programs, like some schools obviously run their own summer camp program. You're talking about going to other summer camps.
correct. Yeah, that'll be
Yeah.
outside. We do run a full day summer camp at 4 of our locations, but yeah, these are martial art recruiting programs that we'll be doing short term at other people's summer camps, school age students, and working to bring in those leads. And again, whether we can convert them immediately or whether it just continues to build our list for back to school marketing. Great use of our staff's time and effort throughout the summer.
Yeah, so even if you're listening now, and maybe it's summertime or something, you're like, oh man, this will work for me, great. But like maybe in the school year, Well, in the summertime, all my clients are going to other summer camps and recruiting new students with the same strategy and bringing them into their new school. So it's not too late to start. It's not too soon to start. Start right now because you can start increasing your revenue, get new students in the door, getting more leads as quickly as possible. So don't wait. Reach out to me at Black Belt Brenner 1 on Instagram or Matthew Brenner on Facebook, or you can visit my website, doubleyourdojo.com. Thank you guys so much, Master Mertens. Thank you for being on here. And then just one last brag. How many after school programs did you set up at one time? Because I don't think we talked about the number, and I was like, poop myself when I heard the number when you first told me.
We did, we got a little lucky in that, there was a third party company that was running after school programs, and I believe it's 26 different elementary schools. And, they were pretty warm to the idea right away. And they said, hey, let's do it. And, because we have 5 centers of our own, we had a location convenient to all 26. And even though there was only like 10 weeks left in the school year, I was like, okay, we're doing them all, and
Yeah.
I had 2 weeks. I usually have a large team, but I had to jump in and help out my team. I had 2 weeks where we were 2:30, 3:30, 4:30, 3 different elementary schools in one school district. Followed the following week by the same thing. So, we definitely found ways to make the system work. We wanted to put it in play and max it out as much as we could, and it definitely paid off.
Yeah, and I think for a lot of times school owners think like, okay, well, the after school program at this local school is run by a third party, so we can't get in. Like, no, a lot of times it's even better.
Absolutely.
So,
Yep.
yeah, and maybe they weren't as accessible right away. We had to figure out who's in charge, how to get in contact with them. It's more corporate involved as opposed to just going to a school and talking to a teacher who runs it. But once you get that domino to fall, you got 26 to fall right away. So,
Yes.
freaking crazy. When you told me that, I remember I was like, holy crap, this is gonna be huge. All right, thank you guys for listening. Have a great rest of your day. Reach out to me, Matthew Brenner, on Facebook, or visit my website, doubleyourdojo.com, if you want more help. Thanks, guys.